Diane McGarry with Dracut Arts.
And I'm Tom McGarry, also with Dracut Arts.
My husband Tom and I have a very special program for you today. In her memoir, The Body Papers, our January author, Grace Delusion, includes scenes of domestic abuse. Domestic abuse is such an important issue that we've asked Reverend Ellie Richardson to join us and help us understand this problem more fully. Ellie is the Associate Conference Minister, Southern New England Conference of the United Church of Christ. Ellie, thank you so much for joining us. I'm not even sure where to start with this issue. How prevalent is domestic violence, and how can it can happen to anyone, correct?
It absolutely can happen to anyone, Diane, and I want to thank you and Tom for inviting me to be here today and for bringing this subject to light. It's one of those hidden things that happens in our culture that people don't want to talk about, and it's so important to bring it out into the light and to speak about it. And it's very prevalent. In Massachusetts, it's reported that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have been subjected to some type of domestic abuse in their home or in their relationships.
Wow, that's a huge number.
It is a very huge number.
So what types of domestic violence are there? Is it just physical, or is it more subtle than that sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. It's not only physical abuse where somebody is being hit or punched or kicked or strangled even. There's sexual abuse, obviously, that can happen in a committed relationship as well as in relationships outside of a committed relationship. There's emotional abuse where somebody's called names, where they're diminished, where their very being is questioned. So people have senses of being unfit or unkind or not worthy. Name calling, it's all emotional abuse. And financial abuse, which is one of those types of abuse that is often gone unrecognized. It's very subtle. Someone not having an allowance, not being allowed to have your own money, hiding family assets, running up debt, interfering with your jobs, or running up credit. Those are all ways of abusing someone.
Yeah, and that a lot sounds like husband on wife or wife on husband, but it can also be on children or on parents too, right? Or grandparents? Right.
We only think generally about spousal abuse or child abuse. However, elder abuse is another problem that we have. It's almost like a role reversal. When people get older and more frail, they have to rely upon family or friends to help care for them. So they're subjected to very subtle and very painful manners of abuse.
So how do we recognize abuse?
People withdraw. You may notice changes in behavior. In physical abuse, you may notice that there are bruises that happen. Somebody might have a sprained, looks like a sprained wrist or a fracture. But quite often, it can be recognized by you see and hear somebody diminishing somebody else. Somebody withdraws, name calling. Somebody is not seen out in social situations very often.
Or the clothes can change too, right? So if somebody's hitting me in my arm all the time and I have black and blues, I just start wearing long sleeves, or I don't wear shorts anymore.
Right, very much so. And with children, you see, especially in small children, they revert to earlier behaviors, bedwetting, bad behaviors. You might see children becoming more aggressive.
Or not wanting to go over to Tom's house, or not I shouldn't have said Tom, but not wanting to go and hug somebody goodbye, right? Because that...
Right, losing social behavior.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to hug them anymore. That's not a good thing. We were just seeing that on some program where the daughter just refused to hug her grandfather, and it was because, and her mother got so angry with her, but thankfully she had been able to talk to a friend first so she could then tell her mother. But that's a hard bridge to gap there.
It is, especially with children, because the normal ways of them feeling safety are quite frequently diminished and set aside because of whether it's a touch or an actual physical abuse problem. And it can be emotional abuse as well with children. Just simply things that are said to children that diminish them, calling them stupid, telling them they're not worthy. I mean, those things all have a
Oh, you're
terrible.
never going to get that. You're never going to understand. I'm just going to wipe my hands of you.
Yep, name calling. All of those things are horrendously harmful to young people, and they can start a pattern that lives with them for the rest of their lives. Their self-worth is gone.
So we're going to share on how to help a friend who's being abused, right? Because we're identifying people, and then we want to help them. We also want to help, if it's ourselves, we want to get help for ourselves. But let's start with, you see a friend who's being abused. So what do you do?
Yeah, if you have a friend that you think is being abused, there are things that you can do. Try to find a time you can talk with them in a safe place. Invite them out for coffee or go out for a walk and just have a conversation with them. Let them know that you're concerned for their safety. Be honest about it, that you question that you might have seen something or heard something, but be supportive and listen to them. But please don't try to shame or blame them. Try not to say you just need to leave, because quite frequently people don't feel secure enough. They're afraid to leave, even though they know what's happening to them. Just have that conversation about you care about them and help them to create a situation, if they're willing and able to have a safety plan.
We actually knew somebody who would hit her husband a lot because she was very upset about things. And it turned, I said to her one day, why do you do that? One of the times we were alone, and she said, well, I'm afraid he'll leave me and I'll have no place to go. So I just gave her a key to my house. And I came home, I said, Tom, she's got a key to our house now. I said, you can come anytime, anytime. Now you can get in, even if we're not home, just come in the house. It doesn't matter. And just having that stopped her behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. And for somebody that's being abused and is afraid, having that safety net is crucial. You know, you can have this talks about have a safe word, create a code word. So if somebody can talk to you and says that word, you know they're desperately in need of help.
Oh,
and
sure.
If you've set up a pattern that they can come to your house or have a place to go, that's critically important for them. And they also need to know that if they're getting ready to leave, that you're not going to question it. You'll always be there for them, no matter what. Even if they stay and stay and stay, that when they finally need to get out, that you'll be there for them to support them, and they'll have that safe haven.
Now, I'm going to pull up this alternative house. I really like this, first of all, because you see up here in this right-hand corner, it says exit immediately. So if you have this on your screen and you need to go, you can. And then it's wiped out, so the person coming on doesn't see it anymore. And it talks about internet safety and abuse, because that's one of the challenges right now, right? That we don't have privacy the way we used to when I was growing up, because there's all the social media, all the records of our calls and where they go. Even getting books out of the library now, that's protected. No one can see what books you've gotten out. The librarians will not share that information with anyone. But Alternative House, it is based in Lowell, and it has a 24-hour hotline. And also, Tommy, didn't you say that people can go anywhere, 24-hour place to go, not just have the hotline?
Right. If you need to leave and you have no place else to go and you call that hotline, they will make arrangements to come and get you. And they will bring you to a safe location where they will find a place for you and your children to stay until you can find another place to go. They will feed you and clothe you.
So you're saying you and your children, so a child could call, a wife could call, an aunt could call, an uncle could call, a parent can call, a husband can call. Let's not forget that sometimes husbands are also abused. I mean, we tend to think of guys as these big, brawny, strong guys, but, you know, abuse happens in all sorts of bizarre ways.
Well, as I said earlier, the statistics are 1 in 4 men have experienced some type of physical violence in their home. So it is not just women and children. There are men who've been abused as well. And the Alternative House, they're there 24/7. They have connections to help you, and they have homes to bring you to that nobody knows the address of. There are houses in this area, so it's not only for people in Lowell, it's for Dracut and the surrounding towns. If you have a need, call them.
Yeah, no, this is for the greater Dracut community, which is who we serve. There are
Right.
also, we wanted to bring up some other statewide and national hotlines. These first four you see at the top, those are nationwide hotlines you can call. They're all 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then there are some 3 state hotlines as well. Notice one is for deaf survivors. These are for survivors, but they're also for people who are in the midst of any type of domestic violence or sexual abuse. Not all domestic violence is sexual abuse.
Correct. And know that when you go onto that website, there are also statewide similar organizations to Alternative House that are available around the community,
Right.
the different communities throughout Massachusetts and the surrounding states. You could go on their websites as well to newhampshire.gov or connecticut.gov, but right now mass.gov lists all around the state places for you to call to get help, places where you can go and get services and get support. And also, for you all that are out there, that if you don't have these numbers handy, 911 is your friend. The local police department is there to help you, and they handle domestic situations all the time, and they will take care of you, and they will make sure you get the help that you need.
So once you've decided you're being abused, or just things don't feel right and you're like, I need to get out of here, what do you do? And how do you prepare to leave?
It's important to be prepared to leave. If you are at the place where you know you need to get out and you're afraid to leave, you need to have a safety plan in place. And there's a website that you can go to that can list everything you ought to do to create a safety plan for yourself. You see it on television. They talk about go bags on these TV detective shows. But if you have a safety plan, having a go bag is important. You want to be sure that you have a little bit of money with you. You want to make sure you have your social security card with you, a credit card with you. You want to have your driver's license. You want to have important papers for you and your children. You want to have important phone numbers, lists of your doctors, if you have a therapist number, your relatives, who to call in an emergency. You want to have your banking information. You want to have that all in one place, so if you need to go and you're ready to go, you can just grab this and go with you to be sure that you're safe. You want to be sure that your children are safe. Sometimes children have difficulty keeping secrets, so you want to be sure that you're careful about how you talk about getting ready to go somewhere, and know that they're safe, and teach them how to call 911 if they're witnessing you being abused and hurt, that they can pick up 911 and they have a place to go that's safe. You can make arrangements with a neighbor or a friend so they can even be safe there while you're trying to get yourself out.
That's not something unusual to, here I'm going to come back to this screen in a second, because so I homeschooled my children. Tom and I homeschooled our kids, and we taught them how to dial 911, and we taught them what to do if there was a fire. You know, we even had fire drills. I'm like, Mom, you know, where to go and gather, right? I mean, people do that in school. They don't think of doing it at home, but we did. And, you know, you go to the gazebo, you stay there, Mom and Dad will come. Don't worry about the cat. Don't worry about the dog. Just leave the door open. You know, so it doesn't have to be, these skills don't have to be just because of domestic violence. They're really life-saving skills to be able to know where to go. And in places where you have tornadoes and hurricanes and flooding, right, you want to have a go bag. So it's not that unusual to have a bag that you can grab to go overnight somewhere. Even we used to go to the beach, and there's the beach bag all ready to go with the towels for next time. So I didn't have to pack it. So it doesn't be this this almost like scary thing to have together. It can be just a part of a regular day.
Right. And having something as simple as, if you're getting ready to leave, back your car into the driveway. Have it so you can get out, get in the car, and just go, and not have to worry about backing out. So if there's something serious happening, you're just ready to go, and you're not going to get stopped because somebody stands behind you, or you have to look to back out. You can drive right out.
Oh no, my son does that because he wakes up and he's tired in the morning, and I want to go straight back.
Yeah.
Where's the plow?
Exactly. You know, so things, have some extra medication ready, so you're not just trying to sweep things off. If you have any precious photographs, because when people are in that time of great anxiety and anger, the spouse that's left behind or the partner that's left behind may do some destruction to things. So if you have any treasures, you want to include that in your go bag too.
I want to remind people the most important treasure is you. You are your most important treasure.
Exactly. The other is just stuff.
That's right. That's right. There's nothing more important than actually you. Now, we have this little page here of what to do in a violent situation when there's a violent incident blowing up in front of you, right? So you don't want to go near someone where they're saying hard surfaces, but I'm also thinking it doesn't have an exit if you go to the bathroom or,
Correct.
And again, they're saying call 911 and practice getting out of your house. Well, I was just talking about doing that, having fire drills, that's a normal thing. So then everybody does know how to get out, and have a packed bag. We talked about that, a code word. We had code words, which we still remember with our children in case they were at a friend's house and were uncomfortable and wanted to come home. Because they can't call and say, Mom, I really hate it here. I don't like what they're doing. It's boring. Or, oh my God, they're drinking too much and I don't want to be. They can't say that on the phone with their friends hearing or the other families. And you don't know, too, if they're going into a house that isn't a safe house. So we had a code word. And if they called and said that, I'm like, okay, we'll come and get you. I don't think we ever had to use it, but they still remember. And it's been 20 years since we taught them those code words.
We also had code words for the other way in case we couldn't come to them.
Right.
We could give a code word or phrase to somebody who could go on our behalf if it wasn't a close family friend that was already known to them.
Well, but we also wanted to make sure sometimes who you think is a close and safe family friend doesn't turn out to be that way.
Yeah.
So we had a phrase that we would tell them just so they would know. It sounded silly, it felt silly, but we loved it. I mean, we still remember it. It's interesting because I went to pick up a friend's daughter at the airport and she didn't have a code word for me. I'm like, well, how does she know that it's going to be me? This was before cell phones. And even with a cell phone, you don't know if the connection is going to go through or who's reading the cell phone, right? Because if there's an abusive person somewhere, the person you're trying to get the message to might not get it.
Well, and even with cell phones, I mean, people can monitor cell phones now. I mean, it's amazing how people can look at what is on somebody else's cell phone. It's like the computers. There's no privacy on a computer. So if somebody's looking to find resources, use the library computer. Use a friend's computer. Don't use your home computer or iPad where the person who may be the abuser can see it, because it doesn't take too much to find information that you think you've deleted on your computer. So you need to be careful and make sure that you're cautious. It may seem like being overzealous, but you're not. You're taking care of yourself, because as you said before, the most important thing is to take care of your own life. You can't replace your life. You can't replace your child's life. Yeah. And one other thing too that some people may stay for is their pets. That may sound crazy, but some people are afraid that if they leave their beloved pets there, that the abusive person will harm the pet.
And they might.
Yeah. They
might, but who's more important?
Right.
Who's more important?
Exactly. However, know that there's a reality there. So if there's something in your safety plan, some way that you can think about if you're really that worried about your pet, make sure your veterinarian is aware, again, your neighbors, the MSPCA. You need to make provisions for your pets.
Yeah, I like this in the list here. It says, know where you're going and trust your judgment. Trust yourself. You really have a good sense. Once you allow yourself to get to that inner place, the answers will come.
Yeah. And know you're not alone. You don't have to be in this alone. There are resources out there that can help, whether it be the hotline at the alternative house, the police, clergy, your pastor, your priest, your imam, whomever. They're there to help you. They will
also
not.
Teachers and counselors and librarians and neighbors too. I mean, you and I were talking about this yesterday, and with the schools closed since March, people have been very concerned that domestic abuse has gone up, and you were telling me that that's true. It has.
Right, and so one of the articles that I was reading recently, the Harvard Business School was writing an article that they referenced that there's been an increase of 300% in domestic abuse calls to police departments.
Wow.
Since March, which is a massive increase. People are home, they're either out of work or working from home. The increase in drinking has gone up since people are home. They're frustrated, they're frightened. So that just increases people's anxiety, which people have short fuses. God bless teachers. I don't know how they do it every day, all day long with students, but I know parents are having difficulty with, they're trying to work from home. They have children that are homeschooling.
Well, it's two different jobs.
Yeah.
Working a job and homeschooling your kids, those are two different jobs. They're not the same thing. And a lot of people forget that. I know, I've been there. You really have to devote yourself full time to your children if you are teaching them. It's not a part-time position, and it's not something easily delegated, especially in these times. So one of my concerns actually is that people think we have to rush to open the schools so that we have more mandated, more eyes on children and more mandated reporters available. But there are other reasons for not opening the schools. So all children do go to the doctor, right? Doctors are mandated reporters, so are nurses, policemen, firemen. But just walking around the neighborhood and observing and being helpful to your neighbors can stop domestic abuse, right? Just being involved with people and letting them know you're there.
Absolutely. Reach out to your neighbors. I mean, you know, you may never have talked to them for 10 years because you're working in one city and they're taking off for another, yet you're next door to each other now.
Yeah.
Go out in your yard, say hello, build relationships, take care of each other. You know, we're here as human beings to take care of each other. We're not meant to do this alone. And what more do we need now than to be together? I mean, we can't physically be together because we need to have the physical distance, the social distancing, as they're calling it. Yet you can talk across your yard. You can talk from the bottom of the steps up to a porch to somebody. You can just say, hi, how are you? Introduce yourself. And if you haven't seen them for a while, just start a conversation. And I think one of the things that is happening throughout this whole pandemic and being quarantined at home is that people are beginning to reach out and to get to know their neighbors and get to know their communities, which is really a wonderfully important thing that is bringing people back to what's important. It's relationship.
Oh, yeah.
And the rest is just the busyness. We all got on the rabbit wheel, the hamster wheel, going too fast. And I think what has slowed us down and realize what's important is family, friends, and relationship, and being together and helping each other, and being supportive of each other. And that's all we can do is watch out. It's fun to watch the kids in the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's been wonderful. I walk a lot, and just seeing more and more people out walking and making those connections has been really rich the last few months and has taken some of the edge off. The separation and the working from home and the not being able to gather as we normally will. Sure.
Actually, we have a little library, a little free library in the front of our house, and it's finally being used. Like fun. We'd have some people come by now and then, but now it's really, really gotten used a lot, and it's so wonderful to see.
Yeah. And by doing those things, you know, if somebody is having difficulty at home and they just have felt isolated and alone and afraid, you've built those relationships, so you've opened a door and provided a roadmap for them to be able to maybe feel comfortable to say something, or you can, if you're feeling something, to say something to them and to open that door for them to feel safe.
So you shouldn't be afraid of your neighbors. You should talk.
No.
Hey, how are you doing over there?
Yeah. Gee, I see you built a garden this year. You know, everybody has vegetable gardens now. It's really kind of amusing. There are only a few of us in the neighborhood that had them. Now everybody has one. You know, just talk about how did your garden go this year? How were your tomatoes, your green beans, and whatever.
Yeah, That's
And
so
everybody's making bread. It's so hard to get all the ingredients now.
Right. Right.
Yes, that's been terrible for us.
Yeah.
I love to make bread, and it's taken a while to get enough flour and yeast.
And yeast.
Gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's all about being supportive and supporting one another and reaching out to one another and caring about one another. But, my heart aches for people who are afraid at home. There has to be nothing worse than not feeling safe behind your own door with the people that you loved at one point in time, and at one point loved you, that something has changed and it's not continued and you don't feel safe.
Well, it's not that they don't love you, right? They can still love you and be abusive.
Yeah.
It just gets twisted somehow. Or actually, if they're an alcoholic, then the violence goes hand in hand with it and they're not even aware of what's happening. Or drugs do the same thing. They're certain, or they grew up experiencing that themselves. So to them, it's normal, but it's not normal. And it's not the way to be with each other.
No, and that's the thing that especially we have to teach our young people. If they are growing up and observing abuse, they have to know, you have to teach them that this is not normal behavior, so they don't repeat it. Because one of the outcomes of somebody being brought up in that abusive relationship is that they do have a tendency to continue that into their adult life or to seek out a partner that is abusive to them.
Yeah. So I wanted to put up these hotlines again for everybody before we close. Thank you so much, Ellie, for being with us and talking about domestic abuse and violence and where people can go for help, how to recognize it in themselves and in others. It's such an important topic. My heart goes out to everybody who suffered from this. It's just a horrible, horrible thing. Thank you so much.
It is, and thank you for inviting me to be here today. And please, everybody that is out there, if you are subjected to this type of abuse or afraid, please know that there are places to reach out. You are not alone, that there are numbers to call. Reach out to a neighbor, a friend, dial 911, whatever you have to do to help yourself. And know that you are a beloved person and that you do not deserve to be treated badly or hurt anywhere at any point in time.
Amen to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for watching. Please feel free to contact us at dracutarts@gmail.com if you'd like or need help. And also 911 is your friend.